I said that I would point out the five biggest mistakes that students make when they take the ACT. So I was just going to kind of go through those, and more than pointing out the mistakes, I really just kind of want to set the tone for what our class does, and how we structure the class, and what we focus on. So I put together a quick little PowerPoint, and we'll see if anybody ends up having any questions. Um, Feel free to put them in the chat box. Obviously, in red, it's top five mistakes students will make, but really what we want to focus on, even though the font's not as big, is how we're going to help you avoid those. So top five, here we go. You count them down like David Letterman, right? So number five, you think that the science test is a science test. That's the biggest, misnamed item I've ever seen in my life. It's not a test of science. Okay. Students who are in freshman science or even middle school science actually know enough science content to ace it. You don't need to be in AP classes. Okay. And what we are going to do, we teach you how to scan the passage, how to look at the written words, the graphs, the tables, find the key information and the connections. And in fact, one of the skill builders that we do is I take an old ACT test, show it to students, and I have removed the questions themselves. And in the 15 years I've been doing this, the students every single time have predicted what the questions were when this test was given. And that's exactly what we're after, is to help you know this so well that when you get to the questions, you say, yep, that was one that I expected. I know right where the answer is. So please, whether you join us or not in the class, please don't make this mistake. Please don't go into science thinking that it's a science test. It's not. It's a test of your ability to synthesize data. Number four, and maybe this is a good sign from what teachers have been working with you on, stamina and sticking with things, and growing through practice, but it's not the time to do this on the ACT. Okay, if you work through a problem that's very, very difficult and it's taking you 2 minutes, 3 minutes, not only are you limiting your ability to finish that test section, but now you're letting self-doubt come in, right? You're saying bad things to yourself about, I'm not smart, I'm not going to do well, and you're getting yourself really, really tense. Okay, so we're going to spend a lot of time in our class actually talking about goal setting. And this is where partnering with Catherine and My Exciting High School Journey is going to be even more powerful for us, because this is her expertise, helping you know what scores you need to get admission to the school of your choice or the scholarship of your choice. And we're going to actually break it down to the ridiculous and say, this is how many questions you need to get right of this kind of test. And you're going to know, I can skip 20 questions and I'm going to be in great shape. By the way, according to Rapid City Area Schools grading system, you can fail the math test on the ACT. You can get less than 70%, which is failing in Rapid City schools, and any university in the state of South Dakota will write you a check for $6,500. It's called the Opportunity Scholarship, and you can actually fail the test and they're going to pay you to go to school. So that's one thing that we want to make sure you know, is what does it really take to get the score that you want. Okay, so again, whether you take our class or not, please give yourself permission. Skip hard questions. You can always come back to them at the end. This is a problem. Students just don't read fast enough. And it's not a judgment of the students. It's just, you have to read pretty quickly to be successful on the ACT. And if you don't read fast enough, then you find yourself rereading and it really slows you down. So I'm telling you, hey, when it's the science passage, these are the things to look for. These are the things to circle. And that way you can really skim it, and be a more efficient reader. Number two, they don't prepare for the physical demands, right? They all think about practicing, the skills to answer English questions or science passages, whatever, but most students are exhausted. There actually is some physical stuff that we're going to work on from the moment you walk in the door of our class. We're going to talk about nutrition. We're going to talk about, some physical things to make sure that you're ready for that. It's actually a very demanding test, okay? And the number one mistake students make, they don't practice ACT questions. They're not written like textbook questions or what you see on your teacher's tests. And so in our class, we make sure every problem you do, whether it's in class or whether it's something you take home, they all come from retired ACT exams. and I couldn't help myself. I actually needed a 1 with an asterisk. Okay, so I modified this slide. Students just don't practice, right? Um, All-state musicians, conference champion golfers, right? You're not just born with it. You don't just get lucky. Okay, they practice a lot, and so ACT students need to be doing the same thing, right? And obviously, we're going to show you what to practice, but it really it's heartbreaking when a student comes back to us and says, you know, you said that other kids get 5 points more, and I didn't get 5 points more, and you know, Mrs. Schultz and I will say, well, can we look at your practice book? Let's see where your strengths were and what we can do. And they open the practice book and nothing's been done. And it's just heartbreaking because they put all that time into our class, they put the time into the test itself, but they didn't put the time in between. And it's very similar to going to a nutritionist, asking them for a meal plan, and then eating fast food for 4 weeks, going back to the nutritionist and saying, you know, it didn't help. And so one thing that we are going to ask of our students is please do put some time in between our sessions. Awesome. So there's the top 5 mistakes. I hope you don't make them. And you know, obviously, if you do choose to take our class, we'll do our very best to make sure that you don't.